It's me. Hi. Welcome back to my talk show where I interview no one and I'm the only guest. My name is Angelina and I'm the proprietor of Your Authenticity Witch, and today we're talking about ghosts. I've been watching a show. Okay, I just watched like the only 8 episodes that are on tubetv.com, not sponsored but should sponsor me. By tubetv.com, the only place to watch TV when you can't afford a subscription. Great British Ghosts, they had 8 episodes from the 2011 season that aired, and it's been a wild time, and I really forgot how much I love ghost stories. I love ghost stories. I'm so interested in the paranormal, and I remember that when I used to work as a museum guard, I would stand in the blind spots and read those categorical BuzzFeed articles of like the top 10 creepiest things to ever happen to Joe, Bill, and Harry in the wilderness, and then it would be all these stories about people who had seen a creepy indigenous person, tormentor, for lack of a better term, or somebody who had had an experience with possession and they had to go see a shaman, etc., etc. And they terrified me, and yet I still read them because I was just pulled into it and I needed to know. I needed to know. And then I would go home and I would try to sleep, and I couldn't because I was just rolling around on my bed thinking about how I was going to get taken under by ghosts. Okay, and what I failed to recognize is that ghosts don't work that way. You can't just like summon them by reading an article about ghosts. And last night when I was trying to sleep, I was like, you know what, Angelina, you're fine because the ghosts that are on TV can't get into your house. That's not how ghosts work. So calm down. So even as like a rational being and as an energy worker, as a light worker, as an energy healer, I still am afraid. And I want to just circle back and talk about my first ghost experience. It happened when I was probably 7 years old. Wasn't malicious at all, just a story that I had. I lived in a haunted house for a small period of time, probably like 2 years. And this was the only experience of a haunting that I had other than the vibes, which I didn't realize were vibes until I was much older. And so I was sleeping downstairs on the futon. There was another person staying with me. She and I were on the same soccer team. We were going to get up in the morning and go play soccer. We had a hamster. Hamster was hamstering on his hamster wheel. I woke up due to the squealing of the hamster wheel. And I look out into the pitch dark living room, and there is a figure walking towards me out of the kitchen into the living room. And I was frozen in fear, didn't even scream. All I did was put my head under the blankets, and I remember the fear also, but I remember the figure clear as day. It was probably like a 13, 14-year-old boy wearing a towel, slowly, just sauntering into the living room, and scared the shit out of me. I thought I was gonna die. I thought this ghost was going to kill me, and thought this was going to be the end of my life at 7 years old, not to make it through all the torment that I had at that time, to only be offed by a ghost. I hid under the covers, and I thought about how I was succumbing to my eventual death, and then everything was silent. The hamster stopped running, and I peered out into the living room, and there was nothing there, and I was like, okay, I guess that was all. It's wild because ghosts are just like walking around all the time, and like you don't know unless you know, you know? Because like some of the people on the show were like, I don't believe in ghosts, and so therefore I don't think that ghosts are open to fucking with me. And sure, but other people were like, I was skeptical and then I came in and now I believe. And so I really wonder what it is in particular. Like, if you're open to it, do they come around, or like do they like to prove disbelievers incorrectly? I don't know what the goal of ghosts are. I don't know enough ghosts. That's what I'm saying. I don't know enough ghosts. So that was my first ghost experience. And then I haven't had specifically another ghost show themselves to me. Now, I'm going to reveal some intimate details about my life and state that one of my favorite places to hang out with is to hang out in is a graveyard. Love a graveyard. Love a graveyard. Love the gravestones. Love the vibes. Love walking around. You get to meet people. If you can talk to dead people, I can talk to dead people. You get to meet people. There's one in Nashville in particular, the Nashville City Cemetery. If you live there, don't crash it. Okay, be respectful. The people there, they need to rest. But they also like visitors, so do with that what you will. Visit them respectfully. So it's a Confederate graveyard, and there's like a lot of different vibes there. There's one person in particular that I really love visiting. He has the coolest mausoleum of all time. It's brick, and it has this concrete door that you can't open the mausoleum anymore. And the whole thing is very bizarre, and I like it so much. And I used to go over there and hula hoop outside his mausoleum. Meanwhile, I'm like, be respectful, and I was just blasting pop music in my ears and hula hooping. That was my own journey. So when I realized that I could talk to spirits, I started practicing in the graveyard. And what I realized was is there is an energetic signature with all of these ghosties. And it's not even necessarily the signature of the person that is buried there, but it can also be the signature of the person who came to visit them. So I'm going to get really woo woo here, and you can listen if you want. I have a Reiki certification, and Reiki is all about moving life healing energy into the body and realigning the chakras and getting you to this place where you're basically activating your own personal ability to heal through like an energetic medium, and you're able to remove energetic blockages in like the auric field and the chakra field in order to realign yourself to the potential of becoming enlightened. Okay, that's a really long explanation for what it is. So you get these symbols when you get enlivened, attuned, and they're called Chakure is one of them, and then Sehaki is another one, and then Han Sha Ze Sho Nen is another one. Okay, and they're all used for different things. They're all used for healing different aspects of the body. Power, okay, like physical power healing that can amplify any one of the other symbols that makes it way more powerful. And then emotional healing, which can be used obviously to heal your emotions. And then the other one, which is past, present, future healing. Okay, it can be used to send into the future, the past, or the present, obviously healing, and it can be amplified with emotional healing. It can be amplified with powerful healing. So that one in particular can be used to essentially open the records of time and allow you to access places in history in the person's lineage that need to be healed, right? So if you now bear with me, if you go to the graveyard and you're talking to these people there, you can feel these signatures that I'm talking about. You can feel the mourners, you can feel the unrest of the people, you can feel the sorrow, you can feel the vibes, you can feel the vibes. And I have taken it upon myself because I really do feel like part of the issue with a lot of the continual suffering that is going on here on earth is the fact that we have all of these spirits that are unable to go to rest, and they are reliving their torment and trauma here on the land, and it is permeating into our subconscious and making us continuously play out those those torments in real life with real people in those dynamics, right? So if there is suffering in the graveyard, right, imagine it like a vortex, right? That's just like one point, and that will just echo out into the surrounding areas. But if all of those places, for example, that are haunted in England are truly haunted, and they're haunted because the people there are tormented, and the people there who died tormented are reliving their torment are in anguish, and they're stuck there in that agony. Imagine all of those things are also like a little vortex, right? And imagine the haunted house that I live down the street from is also like a vortex, right? That vibe permeates, okay? And imagine that vortex being open and being able to like affect things around it on an energetic level. Can you imagine then if on an energetic level that those things are permeating into the atmosphere, that the people around them will be able to rise into like collective enlightenment and consciousness without also being taken down by all the current torment that's going on? Because additionally, if all of those portals, think of them as portals, vortexes, whatever, are open, and they're a portal between dimensions where torment and non-torment is taking place, and they're represented by these spiritual beings that are stuck here reliving their trauma, is that not playing into the trauma that we're currently experiencing today? Because history is repeating itself, and history is unfortunately a lot of torment and trauma. So I know that was a really long line to draw, but I just really want you to think critically about it and say, Angelina, even if that was a pretty wild thing to say, isn't it true? Okay, isn't it true that those things could be true? So, 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 I know that my big role here in life is not only to help people heal from codependency and being a victim of narcissistic abuse, but additionally healing them from the hauntings in their lives, whether or not they live in a haunted house, whether or not they have a negative entity attached to them, whether or not they live on a piece of property that has a vortex open. Like, these are things that I am capable of doing as an energy healer. And this work is literally sacred. And I just want to share another story with you. And we're going to try to cap this video off before 20 minutes. I know that your attention span is short because TikTok is the only thing people watch nowadays. So I have a client, and I've been working with him for a few months, and he hired me under the guise of having issues with his finances. And he explained to me that no matter what he was doing, every time he got in contact with an investor for his invention, he was unable to move forward because they would die. That's the long and short of it. They would die, they would back out, they would ghost him. Something very dramatic on their end would happen, and he was no longer able to go through with it. And this was happening time and time again. And it was like really awful karma for them. And like the things that were going on were really awful, and they were affecting this person in real life. And he was like, I don't understand what's happening. Up until this point in my life, I've been able to accrue this um these finances and these investors, and now there's this blockage. So I went and did what I would call like investigative discovery with tarot, and also with Reiki. When I did the tarot reading, it was revealed to me through the embodiment of the Emperor card that he was being haunted by a negative effigy in representation of the Emperor card. And it was the most seething, dark energy that I have ever been able to manifest in the representation of a card. So much so that I didn't even want to have the card face up on the table because it was debilitating to have this representation in the room. And when I did the Reiki on him, I was able to pinpoint like where this energy was and how big it is. So it was stuck in his root chakra, it was in his core, but you know how your aura spans out at least 4 feet in front of you. I went higher and higher and higher and higher, and there it was, 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 and there it was. And he was being engulfed by this entity that was on his foundation, right? And if you know anything about chakras, you know that your root chakra is where you deal with your security and your finances and your stability and your ability to have good footing so that you can move forward in life and create a solid foundation in all the other areas of your life that have nothing to do with literal material foundational security. So I did my version of an exorcism, and I created a spell after doing some research on what particular herbs I needed. I made black salts. I found a prayer written by a pope for Archangel Michael, and we did a plan. I played a healing frequency. I burned the spell. I made him a poultice to wear and then to put under his bed. I burned the spell. I marked his house with this black salt and the symbol of Archangel Michael. And we did this chant, and I did energy work, and I did some movement. And I am happy to say that after our subsequent meetings, the entity is no longer there. And first of all, hey, I'm not a Catholic priest, and yet. Additionally, that was so exciting. Like, this man now is no longer being attacked by a malicious entity, and now we know that anything that's still coming up is actually like a different issue. And it is a different issue. And my last meeting with him, we spoke about how the two timelines of Earth are really affecting the ability for things to get done, right? If you are somebody who is walking in light and you need money, there is oftentimes money is coming from an area of darkness, and it's hard to find that you can create a reality where those two things are not true and that the money that you are acquiring is coming from light, right? Especially if you're somebody who needs multi-million dollars. Anyways, that's enough about my client. So what I am saying is we are always constantly, whether or not we're attuned to it, dealing with these entities, whether or not there are literal manifestations of them in regard to all of these places in Great British Ghosts, or there is a vibe, or like the TB hospitals and the old prisons and the haunted house down the road and the Grassmere, the enslaved people's quarters at Grassmere, and also the mansion at Grassmere. And like if you go to Andrew Jackson's museum, like all of these places have this imprint, this memory, this like energetic imprint, this memory of suffering and death and disillusionment. And like I swear to you that it is creating this echo that goes into space and time that influences the ability for humans to reach a level of enlightenment. And like that is why it's so important for people like me who know that they have the power to heal those problems, to close those portals, to remove those entities, to help people stop being haunted, like to actually get out there and do it. And so um 18 minutes later, what I'm really saying is if you have a ghost story, I really want to hear about it, and I want you to talk to me about your experience. I remember one ghost story that I listened to on TikTok where this girl was talking about how she suddenly became afraid to sleep with her lights on. I mean, with her lights off, she was suddenly feeling very uncomfortable. And then someone had said that she had seen something in her mirror, and then they realized that they needed to say specific verses in the Bible, and then after that, like, things specifically lifted. And that, I thought that was really interesting. Like, I'm not above God, like I'm not above like God, and God being like the way that you can also remove manifestations of evil. I'm just also saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Why is that the only analogy I can think of? So yeah, I'm like really interested in talking about ghosts and ghost stories, and I feel like the best way for me to become less afraid of the topic is to immerse myself in the stories, because I'm also just like very curious, like why are ghosts always shaking your bed? What's the point, you know? And like why are they always slamming into walls? Like what is the point in that? Like what is the overall reason for that style of communication? Because I really don't think that in all of these cases the entities are malicious, and that in all of these cases the decision is terror. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like sometimes it ends up being terror, and other times it the intention is communication, but it is not terror. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the stories that I was listening to, this is the very last thing I'm going to say. I'm so sorry. Some of the stories that I was listening to, like in the last episode, was about this gentleman, this highwayman who owned this hotel, and he would, I guess he is the entity that they're saying is strangling people in their sleep. And then there was a girl who had burned to death in the same room that the people were also being strangled in their sleep. And so, like, that girl is stuck living out her trauma. But the dude, so, I'm very curious in getting to, like, the how and the why. Like, how did the ghosts get here? And, like, what are they doing? And, like, why are they doing it? So then, like, if the highwayman, like, strangled someone in their sleep and, like, he didn't want to do it, and or he regretted it after he did it, like, does that mean that he's stuck there living in this circumstance over and over again because he actually is remorseful of the situation, but the only way for him to play out the scenario every single time is to strangle someone? Like that episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with the ghosts where they're reliving that story. You guys know what I mean. You know what I mean. Anyways, that's been all. That's been this story. That's been this channel. That's been my ghosts. Okay, bye.